Welcome back. National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis has fired some choice words in the direction of the leader of the Police Welfare Association as well as the leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, concerning their attitudes. Francis says the way in which the two individuals carry on only serves to work against them and stands in the way of progress. Rochelle Gonzalez reports.
National Security Minister Herman Gill Francis has never been one to shy away from speaking his mind, and Tuesday morning before a Senate seating was no different. Whilst being questioned by the media, the minister had some choice words to say about the leader of the Police Welfare Association, Travis Chico, as well as the opposition leader, Philip J. Pierre. One of the matters being addressed was the situation surrounding the PWA's call for more resources and better equipment in order to carry out their duties better and safer. The minister said the government has tried to communicate with the association in good faith and has gone all out to provide the officers with as much as they possibly could. However, he feels that the PWA's president is impatient and unreasonable.
We are trying. But look at the health situation. You have the education system. Then you have the police. So everybody is fighting for the little pie that we have there, and persons have to be patient. Okay, this police force has gotten more from this government than they ever got. Okay, and that's why sometimes I feel a little peeved. And he doesn't speak to me anymore. He does his own thing. Not even the commissioner he speaks to sometimes. Commissioner would advise him, and next time you hear him saying something out of the way, and that is the discipline that we have in the police force.
Moments later, the minister was pressed on the status of Philip J. Pierre's involvement in the National Security Council. Previously, Pierre alluded to being uninformed and then later ignored whilst trying to gain information about the council and his wish to become a member. Francis did not mince his words when explaining why the leader of the opposition is not on the council.
What's going on with him and the National Security Council?
Who's that?
Mr. Pierre.
I think Mr. Pierre here is not the right place now for National Council. When he gets ready, then he will be able to come. But you can't be at loggerheads with the Minister of Home Affairs and expect to sit on a table with him. What's the point?
Isn't there politics and there's the national
but
interest?
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. Why are you playing politics with crime? That things are not happening because the minister is interfering in the police force. Why do you say these other things? Why couldn't he call me and say, "Oh, man, Gil, I heard so and so and so"? Is that true? You know I'd speak the truth to him. Okay? But that's why we have to get over that thing, This country is not mine, I'm not going to remain in politics all the time. Okay? But some of us, the things that we are spinning will come back to haunt us.
With that said, it is left to be seen how Francis's opinions will be received. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Developments in Dominica are making waves across the region and the world. As the December 6th poll approaches, tensions are mounting, with riots and demonstrations now becoming commonplace. On Tuesday, a High Court judge in Dominica denied an application to grant injunction to stop the holding of the general election. In her ruling, she stated that once the president of Dominica issues a writ to hold election, the court is unable to intervene. One commentator, civil engineer John Peters, says what is happening in Dominica on the part of the opposition and its supporters is a threat to democracy. He further commended St. Lucia's opposition for not going down that path of anarchy despite their concerns about the governance of the country. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt delivered a national address on Monday night calling on the leader of the opposition, Lennox Linton, to bring an end to what he described as lawlessness in the country. Videos on social media showed residents of Marigot, Dominica, which is represented in Parliament by the UWP leader Lennox Linton, blocking main roads in Marigot and burning debris on the streets. Here in St. Lucia, John Peters is watching the unfolding developments with a tremendous sense of unease. He says the handling of the situation on the part of the opposition and its supporters is a threat to democracy.
Politicians have to be careful. When you light these sort of fires of dissent and violence, you can spin out of control. And in that vein, let me just say that, I believe too that there's a level of maturity of our present opposition leader that I have to compliment him for. In St. Lucia, that despite the urgings of many to move the conversation and the pushback to another level. I think he has held back on that and has maintained that, the electoral process is a way in which you bring change of government.
Peters is also critical of the stance taken by the Organization of American States, OAS, when it issued a statement expressing its concern about a lack of electoral reform in Dominica. He has condemned external interference in the election campaign.
What also we see in Dominica is the intervention of external forces, and I found that most troubling. The statement made by the OAS Secretary General was most disappointing. The deliberate attempt to engage in regime change by external forces is something that one has not seen in the Caribbean for quite a while. And I found that particularly troubling, that there are forces at play that desire to have a regime change in Dominica.
It is his view that the Dominica Labour Party, led by Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, will be victorious, but by a decreased majority.
Obviously, there is always fatigue in terms of leadership over an extended period of time. He is suffering from that in terms of how the electorate is responding to him. But I still believe he has enough political capital to carry him over the fence.
Peters, who is a civil engineer by profession, says having traveled to Dominica and viewing the developments post-Hurricane Maria, he was left fascinated by the level of recovery and the quality of the housing developments. Meanwhile, former Permanent Secretary in St. Lucia and student of politics Sylvester Clozel is also weighing in on the political developments in Dominica. Clozel had worked in Dominica and has family living in that country. He says there are lessons to be learned from Dominica's political developments over the past 15 years and its current turmoil. He echoes the concern from many commentators.
The development of Dominica over the last 15 years has been phenomenal. A lot has happened. There's a transformation of that economy which the current government must be given credit for. The handling of the post-hurricane situation, the reform, the housing program, the catapulting the economy back into growth. They must be given credit for that. However, there's a difference between what you do for a country and how your country perceives you as a leader. And I think that's a problem that perhaps our Caribbean politicians have a lot, that they believe that because I am doing so much for my country, or we've taken them from this place to that place, that automatically it endorses me as the future leader.
Clozel says likability is a factor that in the Caribbean context has often outweighed gains made by an administration. He says loyalties shift when people perceive disconnect and arrogance by their leaders despite their good performance.
A lot of the surprise we've had in the politics in the region in terms of changing politicians who may have done well and have changed has a lot to do with likability. And people can dislike you for various reasons, for your perceptions of arrogance, for your disconnecting with them at one level or the other. I think arrogance is a big one that troubles people a lot. They do not like arrogant leaders, and I think in a real way, the challenge that has been happening, that's happening in Dominica, has a lot to do with the perception that the leader feels he's a law unto himself, and that he can do as he pleases.
The issue of term limits, given that Skerrit is on course for a fourth consecutive term, has also become a topical issue. Clozel says the concept of term limits and the lack of such policies in the Caribbean context is problematic. When dealing with matters of national interest, all too often solutions are deterred by the process of apportioning blame. So says Senator Gideon Ferdinand as he calls on the country's leaders to employ a more effective approach to problem solving. Ferdinand spoke against the backdrop of various issues within the education sector.
Senator Gideon Ferdinand says the government of St. Lucia needs to adopt a posture where matters are approached with the intention of finding solutions instead of continuing the age-old practice of redirecting blame. Speaking in context of recent bomb scares, industrial action, and student endangerment, Ferdinand claims that the current approach to problem solving on the part of local government is simply unproductive.
There's a posture now that everything that happens, either it's the government or whoever, finds somebody to blame or finds an excuse. It is finding blame and ascribing blame and giving excuses, that doesn't solve problems.
He suggests that authorities take advantage of all that this technological era has to offer in the development of new problem-solving strategies.
Why don't we talk about how we can minimize the possibility of a bomb scare? For example, can the police or the national security ministry tap the calls that are coming into the courthouse? Can that be done? We have technology around. Why don't we start thinking of ways we can solve the problem? Rather than saying that whoever is doing this, I think, was it the Prime Minister who said that the teachers were not being honest? Or did we hear that the students or the parents who were protesting, that it's political? We don't solve problems by making excuses. We don't solve problems by ascribing blame.
Ferdinand underscores the importance of unity regardless of political affiliations when addressing issues of national importance. He hopes that the next issue to arise will be met with critical thinking to arrive at a practical solution as opposed to pointing fingers. For Hot 7 News, I am Jacques Wooding.
Meanwhile, according to Senator Belrose, the Tuesday morning sitting of Senate was postponed due to the Senate President, Janine Girodi McIntyre, feeling unwell. However, with her Deputy President having been appointed, Opposition Senator Joachim Henry questioned why proceedings could not have continued.
I do not think that's the situation. However, I think you should speak with the members of the government side and the independents to find out as to why Ms. Morissette Thomas.
Government Senator Fortuna Belrose said that regardless of the presence of a deputy, it is still fully within the capability of a president to postpone a sitting if seen fit.
Yes, there's a deputy president, but I guess the president of the Senate is the leader of the Senate's business in the House, and of course she determines what's best in the interest of the Senate at this time. And the decision is that we abort until the 12th.
The next sitting of the Senate will be on Thursday, the 12th of December. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more coming up after the break.